Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to discuss whether you could or should use pro fight gloves like the ones you see here for your training. So stay tuned. Hey, what's up guys? Carlo here, and today I wanted to discuss whether you could or should use pro fight gloves as part of your regular boxing training. And when I say regular boxing training, I mean doing heavy bag work, hitting the mitts with your coach, double end bag work, pretty much everything at the boxing gym minus sparring. Obviously I would never spar in a pair of fight gloves. Maybe doing some technical sparring, light sparring, that's okay, but anything heavier than that, and obviously I would use sparring gloves. But that's pretty much a common question I get on this channel. It's a question I get quite a bit of, and more or less for the durability concerns with these pro fight gloves compared to a 14 or a 16 ounce sparring or bag glove. So with that being said, I do have 3 different brands and styles of pro fight gloves here, ranging between 8 to 10 ounces. Before I go through and show you guys some key features of these gloves and what you can kind of look for when you do have a pair of pro fight gloves. Before I do that, there's 3 things I wanted to discuss that to me are key differences between a pro fight glove and a larger training glove. So the first thing is going to be the size of a pro fight glove and weight. Now size wise, you'll notice I have a pair of my 16 ounce Everlast Powerlock 2 training gloves right here. That right off the bat, the pro fight gloves are much thinner and smaller and sleeker. Weight wise, these pro fight gloves, these are the hit and move pro fight gloves. These are only 8 ounces. These right here are 16 ounces. Another thing to keep in mind with pro fight gloves, if they are authorized by a commission, they have to be exactly on weight. So if it's 8 ounces, it has to be 8 ounces. If it's 10 ounces, it has to be 10 ounces. Also, if you do notice, there's some gloves that say 10 ounce XL. The XL means that the gloves are still 10 ounces. The only difference is the gloves are a little bit larger in the hand compartment area to accommodate people with larger hands, bigger, longer fingers, typically the big guys, the heavyweights. And that's why they have the XL model of those. So weight has to be on point. Where training gloves, you'll notice that a lot of my videos, I weigh the gloves, and there's sometimes a discrepancy of being either overweight by 3 ounces, a lot of Mexican gloves are that way, or being underweight by 3 ounces, which, from a quality angle, yes, that's kind of a big deal. But when you're training with them, then not so much in that regard. But pro fight gloves, they have to be exactly on weight in order for them to be certified for a bout. So you can see right there is going to be the size and the weight. That's going to be a huge difference. The next thing is going to be the kind of padding that's utilized, especially in the knuckle area. Now, training gloves, bag gloves, anywhere between 14 and 16 ounces, for example, you notice that they have different densities. They have injected molded foam, multi-layer foam padding, EVA. I mean, there's a ton of different variety of kinds of foams out there. But one thing you'll notice is that typically with training gloves, the padding is thicker and more protective. So both in terms of protecting your hands and your wrists and your forearms, as well as your knuckles, but giving you that shock absorbency you're looking for. Now, when it comes to pro fight gloves, I'll just put these down real quick. You're looking to inflict damage, okay? So you have these Pro Mex Combatientes. These are a puncher's Mexican style glove that utilizes foam and horsehair. Very similar to like the Everlast MX gloves, which have been kind of a controversial glove, both in the Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight. I know there was some controversy with the Floyd Mayweather Marcos Maidana fight where they actually didn't allow Maidana to use the MX glove. He had to end up using the power locks because they deemed that the MX gloves didn't have enough padding over the knuckle area. And you can see, again, this is the Combatiente gloves and how little padding they have over the knuckles. Great for pop and feedback and feeling your knuckles go through and inflicting damage. You can see these hit and moves are a little bit more protective, still on the medium and soft side, but a little bit more densely padded compared to these Combatientes. I also have these Onward Ignis gloves, and these I would say are on the higher end of protection. So if we're starting from the combatientes being very low protective gloves, more pop, more damage being dealt, then you have kind of right in the middle with these hidden moves that are a little bit more of a blend between protective and pop and feedback. You have those. And then lastly, you have these onward Ignis gloves, which are 10 ounces that are a little bit more on the protective side. Fighters that have pre-existing hand injuries, knuckle problems, wrist issues, you name it, will typically lend themselves towards more of a protective style glove like these onward Ignis gloves. That way during a fight, they don't incur any more damage and they're comfortable for all 12 rounds or however many rounds that is. So that's going to be the second big thing, is going to be the type of padding that's being utilized. The third thing and the final thing is going to be the type of wrist support that's being utilized in the gloves. Now, with fight gloves needing to be on weight, you'll notice that a lot, if not all pro fight gloves, barely have any padding around your wrist area. And what happens is you get your hands wrapped up by your coach or by yourself. They get taped off, they're inspected by the commission, and then from there you put your gloves on. The whole process is being inspected by the commission, your team, your opponent's team. And from there, these are laced up and then they're taped off again, and then they're initialed off by the athletic commission of whatever state you're fighting in. So there's not a lot of emphasis on wrist support with this. I mean, there's maybe, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch on the back of the wrist and maybe 1/8 of an inch of a sliver padding on the front. And that is not a priority when it comes to pro fight gloves. Whereas like these Everlast Power Lock 2s, you have almost 1 inch of padding on the back of the wrist of medium to firm density and about 1/4 of an inch on the front. And you also have this reverse strap system that kind of hinges and locks your wrist in. Obviously, you'll never find anything like this on a pro fight glove. So again, just like the padding on a training glove, the wrist support on a training glove is much more supportive. So you're really looking at it kind of like a sprint versus a marathon. And that's kind of the analogy I like to use with training bag gloves, sparring gloves, is they're built for the long haul. They're meant to be used for training day in and day out, and to take that constant abuse of hitting the heavy bag, hitting the mitts, sparring, getting sweat on them. Where the pro fight gloves, they're really just meant for that one fight. I mean, technically you could use them for more than one fight, because they have, if they're certified for fight use, you'll have this tag on the inside that shows you 6-round intervals. And for those 6 rounds that are being used, it gets initialed by the commission. Now, depending on whether or not the commission allows it again to be used for another bout, that's completely up to them. But these pro fight gloves are designed to be used in a fight, and that's pretty much it. Now, for those of you that are going to ask me, well, kind of use it to hit the bag. Yes, you can. Technically, you could use these gloves any way you want to, just like you would a training glove. The key difference is the longevity of this glove when it comes to padding. Now, the leather, the craftsmanship of pro fight gloves are great. The leather should last just as long as the leather, the training counterpart of this glove. So, for example, if they made a Combatiente Pro Max 16-ounce training glove or sparring glove, it's probably going to be the same kind of leather. It's probably going to use the same kind of stitching. It might be even the same colorway, just a bigger version. And then the padding itself may be multi-layered with EVA, something more durable and longer lasting. So that's the only key difference, is the longevity of the padding over the knuckle area, especially if you're using it for heavy bag work. And when you have that, don't expect fight gloves to last just as long as a training glove. It's just not going to happen, especially if you're using it the same amount. So if I were to put this glove on and my power locks on, and if I were to train with these the same amount every day for the same kind of training, whether it's hitting the bag, with my coach hitting the mitts, obviously I wouldn't spar with these, but if I were to do technical sparring, double end bag, whatever it may be in the gym, I can guarantee you these training gloves, and I'm not being specific about power locks, but just any kind of training glove that has thicker foam padding is definitely going to last longer in terms of the foam breaking down, much longer than a pro fight glove. It's just the nature of it. So what I recommend, if for those of you that want to train with pro fight gloves, is bring a pair with you to the gym. use them for the mitts, but then use them more or less like a supplement to your training rather than a full-blown, these are the only gloves I'm going to use. Unless you just want to use them full-blown and you don't mind going through pair after pair over time. But do have realistic expectations that the padding is going to wear off quicker than a training glove just because they're built differently. Not so much the leather and the craftsmanship itself, just the padding on the inside. The great thing about Pro Fight gloves is that they're typically softer, they're very comfortable depending on the model you get, and you do get excellent pop and feedbacks. That's why I love using them for doing mitts with them. If anything, use them just primarily for mitt work and precision. If you do use them on the heavy bag, I would look to use them on a softer filled heavy bag. Anything that's kind of on the dense side, like this ring side, is definitely gonna kind of crush that foam down. Repeated, blow after blow, that foam's gonna start to kind of break apart. So at your gym, try to find maybe a softer filled bag. That way when you hit it with your fight gloves, it just gives it a little bit more longevity over the long haul. So that's my recommendation for you guys. I think Pro Fight gloves are great for gym use. You just have to know how to temper that expectation and use them more as a supplement. So if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys leave them down below in the comments box. I'll put the link in the description box on where you can find these gloves I showed you guys in this video. I'll see you guys later. Take care.